Good day, everybody. I'd like to talk about OSHA and what OSHA is. OSHA was passed by Richard Nixon, the president, in the early 1970s. It's called the Occupational Safety and Health Act. And its intention was to create a bargain between employers and employees. Employers would provide for employees who were injured on the job, while employees would not be able to sue if they were injured on the job. There are, of course, few instances where employees can sue an employer if they're injured on the job, but it really is what's called gross negligence. In other words, if employees know of issues, or employers know of issues and choose not to address them. Other than that, though, there really are few instances where employees could sue an employer for being injured on the job. Employers, though, are required to take care of employees who are injured on the job. And how do they do that? They do that by getting insurance. They buy insurance from a number of instances. Here in California, about 50% of all workers' compensation insurance, which is what it's called, is through the state, through a company called SCIF, which I believe is the State Compensation Insurance Fund. I believe that's the acronym. And so employers pay into this fund, and then if their employees are injured, this fund pays them out. How is insurance determined? It's usually determined by what's called a 3-year tail. And that means that whatever is paid out in 1 year by this insurance fund is paid back by the employee in 3 years. That way, if there is a significant expense in 1 year, an employer may not go out of business because of that cost. In essence, the cost is spread out over 3 years. It is tremendously expensive. Workers' compensation insurance is a burden added on to the employer. And most would think that that cost is because the injuries are so expensive. In fact, there's two factors that enter into the equation of why workers' compensation insurance is so expensive. One is legal cost, and second is health cost. Workers, interestingly enough, don't get as much money as people think that they do. The system has been built and promoted by many attorneys and by many healthcare practitioners to raise the costs. It's a system that many get rich from. The employees, however, don't necessarily get rich from filing a workers' compensation claim. That's why the system is so difficult. In California alone, a couple of years ago, they had a massive reform to the system because it was so expensive to obtain insurance if you were an employer, and so many employers were moving out of the state of California. In fact, moving out of the country because workers' compensation insurance was such a burden that they couldn't make a profit. It was running many businesses out of business. In fact, the same still occurs. It's a system that over the years has become so cumbersome, so expensive, that it becomes difficult to run a business. There was a famous candy maker here in California that moved to Mexico because one of the reasons is the cost of workers' comp was just too great. They found that to run a business and to pay these escalating costs was not making it cost-effective for them to operate in this state. So workers' comp, a good law, good intentions, but over the years has become so difficult and so cumbersome and so expensive that many organizations have chose to move out of states that have higher workers' compensation rules into states that don't, or simply to leave the United States into countries whose workers' compensation laws are not so burdensome. It's something to consider that all taxes, even all those that have good intent, at some point become too bureaucratic and too burdensome, and really become a negative aspect on the ability of employers to offer employees a good wage at a decent benefit package. Thanks, everybody. Enjoy the day.